Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The room was quiet, but the silence was charged. My husband's hands pressed into my shoulders, slow and deliberate, the weight of his touch grounding me. The faint scent of cologne lingered in the air, mixing with the soft hum of our breathing. Every press of his palm against my skin made the air between us heavier, thicker, like something unsaid was waiting to break free. I told him I just needed a massage, just to ease the knots from a long day. But the way his fingers traced the lines of my back felt like more than relief. His touch lingered, sliding just a little too slowly, just a little too intentionally. And I couldn't ignore the way my body reacted, leaning into him, my breath catching in ways I didn't expect. The lamp on the nightstand glowed warm against the walls, casting long shadows that seemed to draw us closer. His hand moved from my shoulder to the curve of my neck, his thumb brushing lightly, like he was testing the waters of something deeper. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. Our silence carried more than words ever could. I felt his breath against my ear when he leaned closer, steady but charged. The warmth of it sent a shiver racing down my spine. My eyes closed for a moment, just to take in the sensation, just to imagine what might happen if I didn't stop him. My heart was beating faster, not just from anticipation, but from the thrill of knowing that one more touch could cross a line we both secretly wanted. I swallowed hard, trying to keep steady. Was this just a massage anymore, or something far more intimate unfolding right under the surface? The tension in the room was undeniable, growing heavier with every second, with every glide of his hand. And then, his fingers began to drift lower. I stiffened for a moment, caught between resisting and surrendering. The world outside that room didn't matter, only the weight of his touch, the closeness of his body, and the quiet storm building between us. What happened next? Well, that's where the story begins. His hands pressed deeper, kneading into my shoulders with a rhythm that made it impossible to focus on anything else. I let out a low sigh, half from relief, half from something I didn't want to name yet. The warmth of his palms lingered long after each touch, as if my skin was waiting for him to return. Too much pressure, he whispered, his voice low, brushing against the edge of my ear. I shook my head, though words caught in my throat. I could feel his breath when he leaned closer, steady and unhurried, but loaded with meaning. My fingers curled into the sheets beneath me, grounding myself as a different kind of tension spread through me. His touch slid lower, slow enough that it felt accidental, deliberate enough that I knew it wasn't. The pads of his thumbs brushed over the edges of my shoulder blades, then traced along the line of my arms. Each pass sent a ripple through me, my body betraying me with every shiver, every tilt of my head toward him. The silence was thick, broken only by the sound of our breathing. I risked a glance at him, over my shoulder. His eyes met mine for just a second, dark, intent, searching. That fleeting connection was more electric than anything he could have said aloud. He leaned in closer, his lips nearly grazing my temple as he murmured something soft, something I could barely catch but felt more than heard. The vibration of his words against my skin made my pulse stutter. My chest rose and fell quicker, betraying the storm that had been quietly building between us. His hands wandered again, pausing just long enough to make me ache for more, then sliding down with excruciating patience. His fingers brushed against the edge of my waist, feather-light, as though he was waiting for me to stop him, waiting for me to signal that line we both knew existed. I didn't. Instead, I tilted back ever so slightly, closing the distance by an inch. Just enough to let him know I felt it too. Just enough to tell him that I wasn't pulling away. The air in the room thickened. His hand stilled for a heartbeat, then continued its descent, softer now, more daring. Something was about to give. Something was about to cross that invisible line neither of us could ignore any longer. His touch lingered at my waist, a pause heavy with questions neither of us dared to speak. I held my breath, waiting, wondering if he would pull back or if he would push further into the territory we both pretended didn't exist. My body leaned toward him, betraying the answer I didn't dare give aloud. The air was thick, suffocating in the best and worst way. His chest brushed against my back as he shifted closer, his breath falling hot against the curve of my neck. I closed my eyes for just a second, overwhelmed by how near he was, how his presence seemed to wrap around me like heat itself. I should have moved. I should have spoken. Instead, I froze in the moment, caught between resistance and surrender, as his fingertips skimmed the hem of my robe. The movement was subtle, almost nothing, but to me, it felt monumental. "Are you all right?" His voice was husky, almost unrecognizable, each word carrying a weight he could no longer hide. I managed a nod, though my throat was dry. My pulse hammered against my skin, so loud it felt like he must have heard it. His hand drifted higher again, tracing small circles at my side, just enough to keep me teetering on the edge. Every brush of his fingers stole a little more of my restraint. My breathing came quicker, sharper, like I couldn't get enough air into my lungs. His own breaths mirrored mine, ragged and uneven, our rhythms tangled together in the quiet room. I tilted my head slightly, unintentionally baring more of my neck to him. His lips hovered there, so close that I could almost feel them graze, but he held back, torturing us both with the restraint. That hesitation was almost worse than if he had given in completely. My hands tightened on the sheets, anchoring myself against the rush of heat rising inside me. I wanted to turn, to face him fully, but fear of what would happen if I did kept me locked in place. The tension between us was unbearable now, too close to ignore, too dangerous to pretend away. One more look, one more touch, and the fragile wall we clung to would crumble. And in that suspended moment, neither of us knew if we wanted to save it, or destroy it completely. The room had shrunk around us. The glow of the lamp seemed brighter, the shadows sharper, every detail magnified under the weight of what was happening. His hands were no longer casual, no longer careful, they carried a boldness that made my breath falter. Each touch claimed more of me, each pause demanded my surrender. His fingers traced along my side again, slower this time, lingering like they belonged there. I tensed, but not from fear, from the electric pull that made my skin burn wherever he touched. My chest rose and fell too fast, my breath shallow, uneven, as though the air between us had thickened into something I couldn't breathe without him. I felt him lean closer, his chest pressed more firmly against my back now, his warmth surrounding me like fire. His lips hovered by my ear, close enough to send shivers racing down my neck. I heard his breath catch, sharp and ragged, as if he too was fighting a losing battle. My hands gripped the sheets tighter, knuckles white, grounding myself against the storm rising inside me. The robe slipped just slightly down my shoulder, revealing more skin than I intended, and I knew he noticed. The silence between us shifted, heavier, sharper, almost dangerous. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, though his voice betrayed him. It trembled, raw and desperate, as if he already knew I wouldn't. I turned my head just a fraction, enough that our eyes nearly met in the dim glow. That single glance held more than any words could. It was admission, confession, surrender all tangled into one fleeting moment. His hand stilled at my waist, then began its slow descent again, deliberate and unyielding. Every inch felt like an eternity, my body caught between wanting to lean into him and needing to resist. The air between us crackled with anticipation, every heartbeat pounding louder, faster, until I thought it might burst from my chest. His breath grew harsher, mingling with mine, our bodies locked in a rhythm neither of us had chosen but both of us followed. One more move, one more whisper, and the line would be gone forever. And in that suspended second, with the world narrowed down to his touch and my trembling breath, I knew, we were standing on the edge of something explosive. The world had shrunk to a breath, a heartbeat, a trembling line of touch. His hand rested at my waist, heavy and claiming, and I could feel the tremor in his fingers. His lips hovered so close to my neck that my skin tingled with the threat of contact. The silence between us wasn't empty, it was dangerous, thick with the weight of choices we both knew we couldn't take back. I tilted toward him, my resistance slipping like sand through open hands. The robe shifted lower, exposing more than I meant to, but I didn't pull it back. His breath hitched when he saw, his body tightening against mine, and the sound alone sent a wave of heat down my spine. And then, a sound cut through the air. A faint click. A door. We froze. Every muscle in my body locked as my eyes flew toward the hallway. The light under the door flickered. My heart pounded wildly, a new kind of adrenaline flooding my veins. He didn't move his hand. I swallowed hard, my chest rising and falling with shallow gasps. The spell hadn't broken, it had only grown sharper, more dangerous, like being caught at the edge of a cliff. Every second of silence outside the door only wound us tighter. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of desire and fear. His lips brushed my ear, not a kiss, just a breath, as he murmured, "Ignore it." The daring in his voice was reckless, intoxicating. It made my skin burn hotter. My body trembled, trapped between wanting to pull away and wanting to see just how far he'd go, even with the risk of discovery looming like a shadow over us. He pressed closer, his chest firm against my back now, his hand shifting with new boldness as though the interruption had only fueled him. The danger made every touch sharper, every breath deeper. My mind screamed for reason, but my body begged to surrender. Another sound echoed outside, a floorboard creak. My pulse spiked, my breath catching in my throat. Was someone there? Watching? Listening? I dared not turn my head. The tension wrapped tighter around me, suffocating in the most thrilling way. His hands stilled, but his grip was firm, refusing to let me slip away. Our eyes met in the reflection of the window pane, his dark, unreadable gaze locked on mine. We were caught, not by anyone else, but by ourselves, by the tangled net of desire and danger we had spun around us. The room no longer felt private, it felt like a secret on the verge of exposure. And yet, neither of us pulled back. The risk only drove us deeper, trapped in the fire we had lit with a single touch. Something was coming, something that would change everything. But for now, we balanced on the razor's edge, knowing that one more sound, one more move, and the line between desire and disaster would shatter. The sound outside the door lingered in the back of my mind, but his touch dragged me deeper, past the point of return. His grip tightened at my waist, pulling me flush against him, and the dam we had both been holding back shattered. My breath came ragged, his lips finally brushing the side of my neck, igniting everything I had tried so hard to contain. I turned toward him, desperate, and the space between us vanished in a rush of heat and hunger. His hands roamed boldly now, no hesitation, no restraint, each movement staking a claim we both craved. The tension that had strangled the air snapped into something raw and consuming. Every brush of his skin against mine was fire, every whisper against my ear was gasoline poured on an already burning flame. The room spun, not with confusion, but with the sheer force of release after so much restraint. We weren't careful anymore. We weren't quiet. The world outside that door didn't matter, until suddenly, it did. The handle rattled. We froze mid-motion, breaths tangled, eyes wide. A voice called from the hallway. Calm. Innocent. Familiar. Is everything okay in there? My blood ran cold. It wasn't just anyone, it was his brother's voice. The weight of what we were doing came crashing down in that instant. The danger that had thrilled us moments ago now twisted into something sharper, riskier, terrifying. We didn't move, didn't breathe, caught in the trap of our own making. He pressed a finger to his lips, eyes locking with mine in silent urgency. My pulse thundered in my ears as I struggled to steady my breathing. Yes, he finally called out, voice strained but steady, just fine. Footsteps retreated. Silence fell again, but the air was no longer the same. What had been fire was now wildfire, reckless and uncontrollable. We collapsed against each other, trembling from the storm we had unleashed, knowing we had crossed a line we could never uncross. The passion hadn't ended, it was only deepened by the shock of almost being discovered. But as I looked into his eyes, dark and burning, a chilling thought struck me: we hadn't just opened a door between us. We had cracked one that others might already be peeking through. The silence after the footsteps faded was deafening. My chest heaved, my robe slipping dangerously low, his hands still at my waist as though letting go would undo everything we had just ignited. His eyes searched mine, not for permission anymore, but for understanding, for something deeper neither of us could name. I felt the burn of his breath against my cheek, the lingering pulse of desire refusing to calm. What had started as a simple touch had erupted into something far more dangerous, and neither of us could hide from it now. The line we crossed wasn't just about passion, it was about truth. A truth that no interruption, no whispered excuse, could erase. He brushed a stray strand of hair from my face, his fingers trembling. That small, tender gesture struck me harder than all the fire before it. It was intimacy layered over intensity, as if the flames had settled into embers that would never die out. I exhaled slowly, my body still trembling, caught between satisfaction and fear. The storm had passed, but its echo filled every corner of the room. The bed, the lamp, even the air itself held the memory of what we had just unleashed. Was it worth it? I finally whispered, my voice low, daring. His lips curved into something halfway between a smirk and a confession. You already know the answer. The weight of his words lingered, heavy and undeniable. Whatever came next, questions, consequences, secrets, would have to wait. Tonight wasn't about guilt or explanation. Tonight was about the spark we couldn't smother, the fire we couldn't pretend away. I leaned against him, letting his warmth fold around me, feeling both safe and scorched at once. It wasn't resolution, it was surrender. To him, to myself, to the dangerous intimacy we had chosen. And as the lamp flickered, casting shadows that stretched long and deep across the walls, I knew one thing with certainty: this night would not fade. It would live in the silence between us, in every glance, every breath, every heartbeat that followed. The fire wouldn't end here. It had only just begun.